Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. Welcome to our gathering, Exploring STEM Student Experiences Through an Intersectional Lens. These presentations today are part of our collaborative NSF grant exercise hubs, Intersectionality as Inquiry and Praxis, Race, Class, Gender, and Ethnicity for Student Success in STEM. Thank you very much for all joining today with us. Thank you. Before starting, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our president, Daisy Coco de Felipe, and she was going to bring some remarks. President, please.
No hay nada más hermoso. I speak a little Spanish. Saludos, ¿ok? No hay nada más hermoso que la cooperación entre colegas en distintas instituciones, tratando de pensar en cómo poder enseñar mejor a los estudiantes que tenemos. I just love the concept, my dear colleagues. I just love the concept of working together. When I was coming up as a faculty member, we were looking at the margins, right? Somehow we're now at the point where the margins have become central because a lot of the pedagogy is going to address how do you bring in folks who did not see them or were being taught in ways that was incomplete. So I want to say thank you to my colleagues here first, because love begins at home. Joel Rodriguez and Professor Antonio Merelas. I have, who was here? Nieves Angulo. So you have math and science right here, right? And I want to say Professor Hernandez, a colleague and friend for many, many years. Very happy to be working on this grant with colleagues at Lehman and colleagues at other institutions in the Southwest. And to have with us this beautiful, the future, and talented, right? Young professors. I can say young, you could be my professor. Dr. Lisette Delgado Cruzata de John Jay, Dr. Lourdes Echegoyen, the University of Texas El Paso, and Dr. Judy Vargas Lewis from Weber State University, UT. We also have with us this morning Benny Lorenzo, who has been a tremendous support for our students in STEM. Really, really grateful that you also make time to see and hear what the professors are trying to do. And to the other faculty, I see you in the back, and those who will be joining. I have a day on roller skates, even at my old age. So about around 12 or so, I'll leave. So I can grab lunch so that I can go to the next event after that, okay? But I'm really, really happy to be here to say how much I support this and how encouraged I am by the collaboration. Mil gracias y bendiciones.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for your wonderful remarks. And now I would like to go to the podium, Dean Fabrizio. Thank you so much, Dean Fabrizio.
Thank you so much, Professor Rodriguez. Good morning, everyone. So happy to join you this morning, and thank you for the invitation to give some brief remarks. And I will be brief since this is such an exciting program. I just want to thank our panelists for being with us today, and also thank the CUNY team that helped make this event possible. This is such a wonderful opportunity for our college to be a part of this NSF HSI hub. So many of our students are drawn to STEM because of their interests, but also because of the socioeconomic mobility that these majors and these these directions hold. So to have this chance to work with other colleges within and without CUNY to really take stock of the many factors that contribute to student success and that impact their academic performance is such a benefit to our students and to the broader academic community. So I know we'll learn so much from being a part of this intellectual community, and our work together will only further our students' success in STEM as well as in other majors. So I look forward to hearing more from our panelists and wish you a great event. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dean Fabrizio, for your wonderful remarks. I would love now to call the program Research Director, Dr. Sofia Oviedo, for providing some remarks. Please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so delighted to have you all here at the Hostos Research Center and to have our distinguished speakers as well on exploring STEM students' experiences through an intersectional lens. This is such an appropriate presentation for the Hostos Research Center, which serves as the hub for research and grants development to support the work of our faculty and staff, and to also provide our students with access to professional research experiences. So today, the Research Center will serve as a platform to present vital research that addresses the challenges that are facing our underrepresented students in STEM fields by examining their experiences through an intersectional lens. And through the presentations we will hear today, we will gain a better understanding of the complex barriers that exist and the targeted supports that can make a difference. And I'm so honored to have our three distinguished speakers today, Dr. Lisa Delgado Cruzata from John Jay, who will join us virtually, Dr. Lourdes Echegoyen from the University of Texas at El Paso, and Dr. Judy Vargas Lewis from Weber State University, who are here with us today. Thank you for your dedication and commitment to this important research and for the great work that you do in support of our students' success. Thank you for being here with us. I want to thank everyone here and also those who are online, who are listening in. We have a wonderful group online as well. And with that, I would like now to welcome back Dr. Joel Rodriguez, who has been a tremendous wonderful leader and support for the Hostos Research Center. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Oviedo. Again, wonderful remarks and a great support for our Hostos Research Center as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Oviedo. Well, I would like to also thank again President Daisy Coco de Felipe for their support for all these endeavors along the whole academic year. Also, our Provost Chiang Kwek Kwan, again for her support for all these initiatives that we have been running along the whole academic year. Thank you so much, Benny, for joining us today. Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Nieves Angulo, the chair of the math department. Thank you so much for joining us. And also, Dean Garcia, thank you so much for joining us as well. Thank you. Thank you, the National Science Foundation, our former National Science Foundation Program Officer, Dr. Sonja Montas Hunter, our current National Science Foundation Program Officer, Dr. Veronica Costa, the Hostos Research Center, and especially Dr. Sofia Oviedo, as I mentioned before. She has been so supportive along all these initiatives. Karen Contreras, thank you very much. And also Yvonne, thank you very much for helping us to put all this together. Again, thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. We are a project funded partnership among 6 Hispanic serving institutions, the University of New Mexico, New Mexico State University, Central New Mexico Community College, the City College of New York of CUNY, Lehman College of CUNY, and Hostos Community College. Our purpose is to help institutions of higher education create effective action for advancing undergraduate student success in STEM and beyond, and to catalyze enduring transformational equity. We would like to acknowledge our PIs and co-PI and staff of this project. From New York team, Dr. Ramon Hernandez, the City College of New York, CUNY Dominican. Tom Roldo from Lee, Dorte Varela from Hostos Community College, and Sarah Marrara from City College of New York, CUNY Dominican side. Thank you very much. From the New Mexico team, Dr. Nancy Lopez, University of New Mexico, Dr. Claudia Diaz Fuente, University of New Mexico, Dr. Felicia Canton Garcia, Central New Mexico Community College, and Dr. Teresa Maria Linda Skoll from New Mexico State University. Thank you very much. And without any further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Antonio Varelas to serve as the chair of this presentation. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Good morning, everyone. It is my great honor, pleasure to introduce these three remarkable speakers and guests that we have here today. I am going to present them in the order that they are speaking today, it's just personally it's so thrilled to have you all here. Lizette, thank you. First, I'll start with our CUNY's own Dr. Lizette Delgado Cruzada. Dr. Delgado Cruzada earned a BS in biochemistry from the University of Havana in Cuba and a PhD from the Mailman School of Public Health at Columbia University in New York. Currently, she's an associate professor of molecular biology at John Jay, here at CUNY, of course. Her research focuses on identifying the epigenetic patterns specific to U.S. Latinas and Latin American women with breast cancer. But increasing the number of underrepresented minority students that go on to graduate. Cruzada mentors many undergraduates in her research lab, has a deep commitment to increasing diversity and inclusion in the STEM disciplines, and this in turn has led her to research the experiences of science students in the STEM classroom and to design and implement strategies to support their success. Her paper today, The Leaky Pipeline, Latin STEM Student Trajectories and Strategies to Support Them. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Our second speaker today is Dr. Lourdes Echegoyen. She received a BS and PhD in chemistry from the University of Miami and started her career as a high school teacher before returning to the University of Miami as a postdoctoral fellow and lecturer. In 2002, she joined the chemistry faculty at Clemson University and directed their NSF-funded REU program. In 2008, she moved to the American Chemical Society and directed their international REU exchange program. Since her arrival at the University of Texas at El Paso in 2010, she served as the founding director of the Campus of Undergraduate Research Initiatives and as a research associate professor of chemistry. Dr. Echegoyen has received several awards from the NSF, the NIH, HHMI, and the DOE to support undergraduate research. Her earlier publications were in supramolecular and fullerene chemistry, while her most recent ones, which are the ones that bring her here today, show the impact of undergraduate research participation on students, particularly those from minoritized groups. Dr. Echegoyen retired in September 24, but of course continues to be professionally active, writing manuscripts with the UTEP research team dedicated to such studies. She also serves as a member of the board of the National Council on Undergraduate Research. Personally, Dr. Echegoyen loves traveling the world, ballroom dancing, hiking, gardening, reading, and art. And her paper today, Intersectionality of transfer students participating in undergraduate research at the University of Texas at El Paso, Benefits and Barriers. Our third speaker today comes from Utah, all the way from Utah, Dr. Yuri Vargas Lewis of Weber State University. She herself is a first-generation student. She holds 2 BS degrees in MBA and a PhD in educational leadership and policy. She's currently serving as fellow of the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities Leadership Academy and UC Berkeley Executive Leadership Academy. Dr. Vargas Lewis serves on the Ogden School District Equity Community Council and boards for Make-A-Wish Utah, United Way of Northern Utah, and Futures Through Training, Inc. Dr. Vargas Lewis spent over 29 years at Utah Valley University. She started when she was 5, where she was instrumental in increasing their Latino enrollment by 361% and graduation headcount by 724% between 2007 and 2019, while raising over $1 million in grants and donations along the way. Her work has garnered state and national recognition, including the Pete Suazo Social Justice Award, the Tonawack Award, Utah's 40 over 40 in 2023, Utah Business Magazine's Living Color Award in 2023, and a 2-time Alexcencia in Education Program finalist. In 2015, the Latino initiative that she led was selected as a bright spot for the White House Initiative on Educational Excellence for Hispanics. Dr. Vargas Lewis co-led a tuition-free Empowered Scientists of Tomorrow program, which has been replicated at 6 schools nationwide. Her paper today, Bridging the Gap, Creating Accessible STEM Summer Bridge Programs through an intersectional lens. Please help me give a warm welcome to all of our speakers. Just one last thing before I hand the microphone over to Dr. Delgado Cruzata. Just as a matter of format, all three of our speakers are going to speak, and we'll save the questions for the end. Thank you very much again.
Can everyone hear me? Yes? Okay. So thank you so much for this invitation. I would like to get going. And like Dr. Varela said, the title of my talk is The Leaky Pipeline. This phrase that we have heard so much, and that refers actually to that loss of students that enter to study STEM degrees and then decide to end up doing something else or sometimes leaving college. So for that, I thought I would start just discussing the more general trajectory of Latina students, college students. And I look at this slide and I feel like this is good news, right? In the last 2 decades, there is a lot more college students, Latina college students than there were in the 2000s. So this is good news. There have been 4 times more students today graduating from college who are Latina that there were in the year 2000. The proportion in the income in the graduating class has also increased, not as much. And that means that other groups also have had larger increases in the number of students who are graduating from college. We can also see from this table from IPEDS that women have more gains, have had more gains per decade in this time, and we actually know that Latina are the demographic group that has seen the largest increase overall. We see some smaller difference here between male and females, but overall, I think this is good news, right? So let's just start there. One thing that I'd like to always get back to is the fact that we still have a small number of females who actually earn degrees in STEM. The total graduating class for college is actually almost 60% female, while the STEM graduating class is only 36%, right? So you see a flip in what is all of the students that are graduating from college are mostly women, but when we are looking at the STEM graduates, they're mostly men. And this is something that we cannot forget. This is something that we also need to keep referring to and going back to, and it's the fact that we have not been able to break that that disparity in gender in the sciences. Is still present today, and you can actually see it in this graph across all demographics. So all race ethnicities display a similar pattern in which women are graduating in lower proportion than men are. So I'd like to also remind us that this is not something of the past, but this is something that is still currently occurring in our schools. Now here, the data is pointing at the bottom, in the graph at the bottom, it has all of the students in proportion to all of the students that are graduating in college, how many or what is the percentage that actually graduates with STEM degrees, and this is divided by race, ethnicity. And we see actually that less than 20% of the students end up earning STEM degrees, right? And that when we go into the STEM graduate class, and that is the inset in the graph right on top, the distribution of those students by race, ethnicity. Except Asian American students, the rest of the demographics are actually below 20% in terms of the students that actually end up getting STEM degrees within that group. But the distribution, of course, shifts when we're looking just at the whole STEM class and the proportion of them from the different race ethnicities. And we'll go into it, and I'll go into it in the next slides about what is actually happening within the Latino population. So here we have a similar data, the one on the first table in which it showed all Latinx students graduating, but this one is actually limited only to STEM students, right? So we have also seen an increase in STEM students, and there were so few 20 years ago that this increase is actually a lot larger. So now this is over 6 times many more students are graduating from STEM, you know, in 2020 when compared to the year 2000. So the proportion of them also has significantly increased in the graduating class. So that means, and not at the same level, again, meaning that other groups have also increased their graduation in the STEM. And this probably has to do with how STEM has become a great opportunity for upward mobility, and there is a lot more interest and supports for STEM students across the board. Again, we see larger gains for females in this period, which is interesting considering, right, that we know that there is a lot fewer females that graduate from college with the STEM degrees than males. Because we always have this conversation about how STEM is not this unique field, right? So it actually comprises, and here we're limiting to the biological, physical sciences and mathematics. So I wanted to show a breakdown of the graduate class by race, ethnicity, and gender, also considering the different fields of study. And what is interesting in this table is actually that for Latina students, there is little variation across the board. These Latinos are the group with the least variation if we don't consider Native Americans, who proportions are very small actually. And in most instances, Latinas have a larger percentage of the graduating class, except for math and computer science and biomedical fields. So this just gives us an idea of where, you know, if there are actual, you know, breakdown in difference in across the board, and we don't see that. And I think this is also pointing to not only interest, but the fact that our Latina students are succeeding and entering these fields and succeeding and at very similar rates. So I find that this is also good news. But then we have to talk about what are these students doing after they graduate. So this is giving us a snapshot on how you know, all jobs and STEM jobs are divided in terms of race, ethnicity. And we actually see here that while Latinos in general, Latina are all are the second group, the second demographic in terms of all the jobs, they are the last one in terms of STEM jobs. So there is a huge disparity in terms of often as a percentage of the field of work that we're looking into, either it's health, math, physical sciences, computer science, or engineering. So even when we're getting a lot of students to are graduating, this is not yet in some way reflected in the workforce. Further, we can also see that while Latina make up a lot of the workforce, right? When we're looking at STEM, their larger numbers are in those jobs that do not that do not require a bachelor's degree, and jobs that actually people are being hired to do without a bachelor degree. And this disparity is quite large. So 7%, almost 8% of those that are working in STEM with bachelor degree are Latina versus almost 20% or 19.4% of those that are working in STEM without bachelor degrees are Latina, right? So, so this is important for us to see. There is another factor yet that is that Latina actually earn because, you know, as a result of this breakdown, lower salaries and are more often than other demographics employed in support positions, supporting staff positions in STEM. They are also underrepresented in leadership and management positions. And one example is that 7% of managers in computer science and engineering are Latina versus 72 and 80% were white and Asian respectively for 2021. So that gives us an idea, right, of where these, you know, where the Latina working force is at. And this points to something I believe very important, that is that we are certainly graduating, that students are graduating, but they are not getting the jobs that that will make them successful and help them, you know, move forward in the workforce. More importantly, though, there is, if we look at the percentage of Latina in the US population, today we have 19.5% of the US population self-identifying as Latina, and there is an estimate that by 2050, the estimates vary, but it's closer now to 25% of the population will be Latina. Right? So even when we see numbers that are higher in the graduating class, we are not actually reaching our proportion within the US population. So there is still a lot more work to be done and supports to keep in place. So actually we can bridge this gap between the presence in the US population and actually in the workforce and graduating class for the Latina population, and more importantly, also so they can they feel that they can actually do this and be successful, and take part of this the economic growth that comes with participating in the STEM workforce. I wanted to take you know, that was just an introduction to what the state of how I see the trajectory of STEM students in the US, but then come to try to focus on our own experience in our own college. And like Dr. Varela's mentioned, I am a professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, that is a part of CUNY. John Jay is an urban commuter college, four-year college. John Jay is an HSI and an MSI, right? And one thing that we're very proud of is that John Jay has increased its graduation rate to 64%, which is actually, you know, we're very proud of that. And it has been a lot of work from our institution, and our leadership has gone into that with a lot of different programs. However, what we find in our STEM class is still that it doesn't reach that. And I wanted to share with you how we look at this and what we're doing to address that again, that gap in between our STEM students and our overall student population. Our students are also largely low income. Over 55% of them are low income, and many of them, over 40% of them, are also the first ones in their families to go to college. So we have a particular student population that you know, it's eager to come to college, and it's eager to make progress and learn, I believe. So what are the issues that we have been facing? We have this incoming class of science students, and this is our science enrollment here. And more than half of that class is female and also Latina. And what we have is that entering class, the makeup of that entering class, the proportion, the demographic proportion in that entering class, and the one that ends up graduating with a STEM degree is not the same. So almost more than 50% of our students entering are Latina, but only 50% of the students that end up graduating are, right? And this is the result of a loss, basically, a very low retention, because a lot of our students will leave the major and end up graduating in other majors. And those students who enter in the sciences end up graduating from all majors. If we calculate how they graduate, but from any major, not considering the science, is actually more than double the rate of graduation for Latina students overall. But these students are not graduating with science degrees. They are graduating with any other degree. And this is a concern and something that we are working on, basically trying to understand what is the issue behind this difference and what is making the students leave the major. When we look specifically at what is happening after year one, after the first year of college, we realize actually that half of the class basically leaves the major after year one. Those students that leave the major are in high proportion female. They are also Latina, and they are low income. Okay, and what is most interesting, though, is that right after that first year, from that group of students that leave, 40% of those students that switch to another major are Latina. So specifically, not only they are Latino students, but they are Latina female students specifically. And what this tells me basically, and these students end up graduating, what this tells me is that students are ready to be in college, they're committed to succeed, and they decide early on the sciences is not the place where they want to do that, and they switch majors and go somewhere else. So that makes us think about the data that says actually that there are reasons for this leaky pipeline. Here is where our leak is, and it's huge, right? We're losing a lot of students. This is actually a multifaceted issue. It's not just one thing. There are issues that are economic, of course, and cultural and historical. There is a concern that there are these exclusion messages that students receive as soon as they join majors. Some of them are direct, like active discrimination, but some could be indirect, lack of role models, the idea that some students are not supposed to be earning degrees in certain areas. And there is data that points out the fact that the students feel they don't really belong within these areas. They also experience stereotype threat and social pressure. And considering all of this, what we are currently doing, and this is what I share with you next, is we have taken a multi-level approach in which we have two different projects ongoing. And in one of them, we are working with faculty members. And engaging with them and helping them develop classroom activities and materials that actually promote belonging and engagement in the classroom. And this is actually by considering the cultural knowledge and power that students bring into the classroom and try to find and bridge that gap between the sciences that are sometimes so foreign to anyone and the experience of the students that are in the classroom. And in the other, that's one project. And in the other project, we actually are working directly with incoming students. And we have this summer program in which we support students by preparing them through community building, study skills, and helping them understand the growth mindset that, you know, sciences are going to be hard, but you will get there. And then coupling that with a support of a peer mentoring program that is throughout the first year, in which students work with those that are advanced students that share their identity and can support them as they encounter the challenges that are common to the science classroom. These projects are ongoing, so I won't be able to share with you just data of the outcomes, but this is a way for us to kind of give you an idea of what we're thinking. And we're hoping that really, we can really here make an impact on their student experience. Okay. Anyway, so that's all that I had to share, and please feel free to contact me. I want to thank the organizers of the event for inviting me, and all, you know, the NSF and HSI STEM program for supporting our work, and those faculty members and students who are participating in these projects. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Delgado Cruzada. I'd like to invite Dr. Echegoyen to the podium, please.
Well, first of all, thank you to all of you for being here. I want to talk to you about, can I take this out? Makes it a lot easier. So are my slides going to be projected? Okay. So I want to talk to you a little bit about a project that we had at the University of Texas at El Paso, where we are studying the process of our transfer students, most of them coming from the local community college into the university and then participating in research, and the impact of that research on the students attending graduate school. Do they go there or not? Do I, here? There we go. So when we talk about intersectionality, first of all, we're talking about that framework that allows us to merge the identities, the various identities of individuals, not just their gender, but also their ethnicity, their race, their age, their sexual orientation, their religion, etc. And one of the things that is important to realize is how powerful those identities are in creating barriers for the students to pursue their careers, particularly in STEM. So to put things into context for all of you, UTEP is an R1 Hispanic serving institution since early 2019. And back here, yes. And we're 84% Hispanic. That gives you an idea. We're on West Texas, West-South Texas, right on the border with Mexico and New Mexico. Our undergraduates are about 21,000 students. About 55% are women. Are economically disadvantaged so that they qualify for Pell Grants. And about 50%, half of our students are first generation. They're the first in their families to attend college. One of the most critical things for this study is that about 70% of the graduating students at UTEP have taken some transfer credit. We have a very nice articulation agreement with the El Paso Community College. So it's bilateral. They can take community college courses when they are at the university, or they can simply transfer their courses from the community college itself. So our intentionality, it was mentioned that I directed the Office of Undergraduate Research at the university. So what we wanted to do was involve as many students as possible in undergraduate research, because we understand the value of that, and I think you guys do too here. We wanted to provide financial resources for the students and stimulate strong mentoring. So we created a lot of programs in order to do that. We decided to do a quantitative and qualitative study on those transfer students who participated in research. So we took the population from 2015 to 2022 that graduated in those years. They had been students that transferred at least 24 credit hours. And the full sample was about 5,400 students. Now, we divided those students into sample A and sample B, with sample A being those that had participated in research for at least one semester. And we do have a zero credit course that students must enroll in so that we can track those that are doing research. So 740 students ended up being in that sample. And then sample B was those who did not have any research experience. We also did a qualitative study, and we invited students in sample A to complete a survey and participate in a personal interview, and 30 of those students took the survey, and 24 of the 30 participated in the interview. So this is what I'm going to present to you now. So our research questions were based on, for transfer students enrolled in STEM majors, does participation in research impact their academic performance, their persistence, their time to degree, and their enrollment in further education? And for the qualitative studies, we wanted to study what barriers and what benefits students reported from participating in STEM undergraduate research experiences, and what intrinsic and extrinsic factors motivated them to participate in research. So the majors that we included in the study are pretty much across the board, from anthropology to sociology, all of the sciences. And for those of you that don't know this, hopefully you will understand it. Psychology, sociology, and anthropology use the same pretty much scientific method in their research approach. So we wanted to include those, and engineering as well. So when we looked at this population, we divided again into those that participated in UREs versus those that didn't. And was there a difference in GPA? Again, these are the students that ended up graduating from UTEP after participation or not in research. And there was a 0.2 difference in GPA, which you would think is not significant because it's still a B, but it was statistically significant when we did the study. 100% of all of our transfer students, 100% persist in their major. What that tells me is that the students, once they transfer to the university to complete the 4-year degree, they have decided that they want to be scientists. So, and whether they participated in research or not, we had 100% persistence. The average time to degree was about 3 years for both groups. And you would say, well, but if they came with already 24 credit hours minimum, if they, why do they take so long? Our students tend to, because they're financially disadvantaged, et cetera, tend to take a long time. So 3 years is actually pretty good on average. Many of them take an additional 5 or 6. And you will see this data with the qualitative, semi-qualitative study. Then the interesting part was that 50% of the students who participated in research, 50% ended up enrolling in graduate school, whereas only 29% of those who didn't participate in research enrolled. So this was significant as well. The number of semesters of participation in research was quite significant as well. For students that didn't do research, as I mentioned earlier, 29% ended up enrolling in graduate school. For those that did only one semester of research, it was 44%. Whereas for those that did 2 or more semesters, it was 54%. So the time that they spend doing research is quite important. And it's associated with the mentoring, of course. We all know that. So for the qualitative study, then, as I mentioned, only 30 students decided to take the survey. And here is a breakdown of whether they were male, female, whether they were in the military, their race, the ethnicity, whether they transferred from the community college or from a four-year institution, whether they were first in college, first-generation college students, and the average time that they, the age that they were when they transferred to UTEP. And for the most part, again, we had more females than males that responded to the survey. But of course, that's, women are on top all the time, right? In terms of military, we had about 7 of the 30 students who were affiliated with the military. In terms of race, the majority were white, but the majority were also Hispanic. 22 out of the 30 were Hispanic. 22 out of the 30 transferred from the community college. 18 were first generation. And in terms of age, 19 of them were of the average age for college students, 18 to 22, but 11 of them were actually older than, were between 23 and 30. And then the age when they started the research experience also was interesting. The majority of them started after age 23, their experience. So the distribution is quite interesting. But what I like the most about this study was that when they derive, doesn't have a motivation. Exploring the possibility of a future in science research, desire to learn more about science in general, personal high performance goal, acquire knowledge and skills associated with doing research, or basic scientific research. As you can see, about between 83 and 87% of the students found those as the motivators. And again, these are the percentage of students that agreed or strongly agreed with that question. And then they disagreed or strongly disagreed that they were influenced by a teacher from their K-12 education, or that they had other family influence, or that their parents influenced them, or that the community college professor influenced them, or the desire to go to professional school. None of these were motivators, interestingly enough. So the majority were intrinsic motivators about science in general. So again, that points to that 100% retention and graduation within STEM once they transfer. They know what they want at that point. In terms of the general transfer student experience and finding an undergraduate research experience, the majority of them agreed or disagreed that they had always had high educational aspirations. So the students came in with wanting to complete a degree, that their experience in research motivated their career aspirations, and that conducting research also motivated them to continue to finish a STEM degree. So that's, again, that spoke to my heart, being the director of the Office of Undergraduate Research. That really spoke to me, thank God. But the things that we found was that they disagreed or strongly disagreed, that they were aware that there were research opportunities when they first transferred. And I'll speak to that at the very end. in my conclusions, and that they found a research position immediately after transferring. The majority of them disagreed with this. So in terms of intersectionality, for these students that were interviewees, again, the 24 students that participated in the interviews, there were more females than males, and 7 males. The majority were Hispanic, 13 of the 17 females and 5 of the 7 males. The majority were white. There were a couple of mixed race students. And if you look at the phenotype of the students around El Paso, you will agree with that. There were 5 of the females that were affiliated with the military and 2 of the males affiliated as well. They all persisted in the STEM major. 8 of the 17 females were in formal programs. The rest were not in formal programs, meaning they worked directly with a faculty member, but not necessarily as part of one of the, LSAMP or any of those programs. 10 of the female students were funded of the 17, so the others were volunteering in doing research. But the beautiful thing is that of the 7 males, all 7 ended up entering graduate school. Of the 17 females, 14 ended up in graduate school. So those 3 were missing. So we went ahead and coded some of the interviews, and what I'm presenting here, not to reveal any identity of the students, some of the barriers were related to caregiving. So one of them, a male in the military, the first one, ended up taking care of his aunt. So he said it was hard being an undergraduate student and taking care of an aunt. Another student, a female, Hispanic, first generation as well, sometimes had to take care of her grandmother. And if her mother got sick, even worse, she had to take care of both of them. So it was 3 females in the family. And the last one was a female, also Hispanic, that ended up in graduate school. She said money was tight. That was one of the barriers because she had to take care of a kid. She was married, but they both had to take care of a kid. So in her response, she talks about having odd jobs besides doing the research, et cetera, in order to be able to finish her degree. But she ended up in graduate school. Another one of the barriers was the lack of awareness about the existence of undergraduate research opportunities. A 4-year institution or higher, a research university. And one of the students talks about, if it hadn't been because I applied for a scholarship, I wouldn't have known that I had the opportunity to do research because the scholarship required the student to participate in research. And another one was simply talking about it was impossible for me because I had no idea and nobody told me that there was research. So I found the opportunity just by pure chance because a professor reached out to me. Another opportunity was difficulty networking. So one of the students talks about, as a transfer student, I had already made some friends in the community college, but transferring to the university, I didn't know anybody except my sister. So networking with people who would tell me about research, it was very difficult. Or getting to know professors. One of the students talks about, being in a large program in psychology, and there were 50, 60 students, looking for the same opportunity. How do you network in order to get a position doing research? So that was one of the things that, one of the barriers. In terms of benefits, the students talk about coursework advantage. Some of the students mention, and these 2 students talk about it, that participating in research allowed them to do better in some advanced courses because some of the techniques that they were talking about in those courses at the advanced level, they had already learned about in the research labs. So that was another super benefit. Another benefit is about mentorship and graduate school, which was the purpose of the study. Talking about My mentor was very supportive. When I wanted to apply to graduate school, she encouraged me and she wrote a recommendation letter. Another student talks about being the graduate students that were the ones encouraged in them. This student was chasing, when they were in the field, this is field biology student, when they were in the field, chasing the graduate students to ask them about the graduate school experience. She talks about not knowing what a CV was, and that the students had to explain to her what it was, how to create one, go to the career center so that they teach you how to create your CV so that you can include it in your application for graduate school. So my conclusions from the study, and by the way, it hasn't been published yet, where the manuscript is almost ready, so this is hot off the press right now. Participation in research encouraged STEM students with multiple underrepresented identities to apply and attend graduate school. The percentage cannot be denied. The knowledge acquired in participation in research helps the students do better in coursework. Important for those of you that are in community college, as well as those of you at universities, advertise that the students have the opportunity to do research. If there are no opportunities at your specific community college, I know there are here, but in some community colleges there aren't. There are programs at the universities that take the students while they're still in the community college or as soon as they transfer, but letting the students know early on that these opportunities are out there for them. Funding, I didn't put any of the specific interviewee responses related to funding, but pretty much 100% of the people that we interviewed said, if there hadn't been any funding, I wouldn't have been able to do it. There were very few that volunteered. So funding to participate in research is critical for our underrepresented students that are financially disadvantaged. And mentoring with faculty members, by graduate students, is critical for the students in order for them to move to the next level. So the encouragement that goes in, the understanding that the faculty member give the students about what it is to be a STEM professor or a STEM leader in industry, et cetera, is very important for the students to understand what their next level is and why it is important to continue on, finish their degrees and go to graduate school. So with that, I want to thank my people. So Dr. Amy Kern is the postdoctoral student that was part of the Building Scholars Center, and she did all of the interviews and she led the study. Angelica Monarres, she's an evaluator with our research office, and so she helped with some of the data as well. Tolu Adegina was a data science graduate student who crunched all the numbers for the quantitative study. And Dr. Amy Wagler, she's a professor of public health, and she's one of my co-PIs in the Building Scholars program. The data that we used in the evaluation was from our Center for Institutional Evaluation, Research and Planning, and the funding came from our BUILD program, which was funded by the National Institutes of General Medical Science. In addition to that, I'm sure you're all familiar with this, but I wanted to show it. I hope I don't get in trouble by talking about equity. But as you see, equity is giving each student what they need. So this is one of the things that I was very adamant about when I was at UTEP. And also, what leads to liberation? And what leads to the liberation is removing those barriers that I talked about earlier. Let's remove the barriers so that the students can do whatever they need to do and proceed with their careers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gillian. Dr. Lu.
Let's lower this.
Yeah, we can do that. Can we do that? Here, yeah, perfect.
I'll hold it.
You want to hold it? Okay.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation to come to one of the places I call home, New York City. And as mentioned, my name is Doctora Judy Vargas Lewis, and I'm going to be speaking about bridging the gap, creating accessible STEM summer bridge programs through an intersectional lens. And I love that my colleagues spoke about programs that exist for incoming college students, incoming college students who are transferring, and then this particular set of if we can go to the next slide. Actually, this is, you see this picture, the painting on your left is the original painting that I show you. And then the picture on my right, oh, well, it will be on my left and looking at the Zoom, is actually where my parents grew up in the Dominican Republic. So it is the same, very similar home that you see. On this side, you see all the colors. On this side, you can see that there were a lot of disparities that they had to deal with. I can tell you that there were a lot of happy memories and great things. And I can tell you that my parents, even though they did not have the opportunity to attend higher education or graduate from high school, they encourage the daughters, the four of us, to actually obtain a college education, because they knew that that would get us to a place where we can have a better life than what they had. So my mother completed the 4th grade, and my father completed the 7th grade. And if you look at statistics that speak about students or whose parents did not go to college or yet alone graduated from high school, the chances that I would be standing here in front of you are very slim. So I always say that when I received 2 bachelor's degrees, and one, if I had a magic one would go to my mom, and the psychology one, and the business one would be going to my father. And then looking at a master's degree, I obtained that for my kids. And then a PhD for everybody's kids, because I want to be able to provide opportunities that otherwise students would not have to obtain a college education. Next, please. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. And what we did in Utah, and I'll give you some history of where this started, was to create a STEM summer bridge program for high school students. So we want to enhance Utah's workforce by providing tuition-free summer university courses for high school students to explore STEM fields. Specifically, I've been involved with science and engineering and also business. And so again, incoming high school students from grades 9 through 12, and that will be for the fall semester before they enter those grades. This program is 7-week. And we offer typically 2 courses, one in the major and one a general education course. And we also have career exploration field trips where we are not only having the students learn about the concepts, science, engineering, in the classroom, but we're connecting them to industry. So that's really, really important. And then students may earn up to 6 college credits. And as I mentioned before, this is tuition free. We recognize that a lot of the students that we serve are economically disadvantaged. And many of them are first generation students. So making sure that we're not only working with the students, but with their parents or guardians was also important. And then some of the components of the STEM Summer Bridge program, we created a success team, understanding that for many of these students, as it has been highlighted in the previous presentations, many of these students do not have, are not socialized to really look for tutoring opportunities or mentoring opportunities. A lot of the students don't even know what a mentor is. What does that mean? So part of the success team was working with tutors and mentors, faculty. Also, we identified the success team as having the parents or guardians involved, the students themselves as they represented different schools. And then we also have a parental engagement piece throughout the whole program. Started with parent orientation, making sure that everyone was on the same page when it comes to the requirements, what we require for college credit level classes. And then we also had an end of the program celebration, and throughout the summer bridge experience, we have communication with the parents, just letting them know what we were covering. If it was science, for example, in biotechnology or geology, you know, what were they studying? Well, just so that they would have a point of conversation at their homes. And then we also included university student success components, and those range from, again, spaces where we discuss time management, study skills, where we also discuss the advantages of unfacilitated communicating with faculty members, looking into research opportunities, asking for research opportunities to volunteer and so forth, because again, the students were not used to doing that. And then we collaborated, or we collaborate with school districts, having that conversation, thinking outside of the box, that in my mind, and based on the research and best practices, we cannot see higher education as an isolated space. We have to look at K-12. If we want to see more students in STEM, we need to create that pipeline, understanding that a lot of underserved student populations, and this is not just limited to race, it's also limited to socioeconomic status, and then also to being first generation, among many factors, that we need to be able to reach out in ways that are not historically utilized by universities. And then some historical context on how we started this Summer Bridge approach in the state of Utah. So I used to work at Utah Valley University. I spent 29 and a half years of my life at that university. And one of the great programs that I worked with was originally the Latino Scientists of Tomorrow. They have changed the title of that program to just Scientists of Tomorrow. Worked with the Dean of the College of Science. He used to be a faculty member in geology, and I used to work in student affairs. So oftentimes in higher education, you would hear that it's difficult to work amongst student affairs and academic affairs. But this proves that it's totally doable, and that is a very successful partnership. So we started offering Latino Scientists of Tomorrow, always having a cohort of at least 40 students, and this is back in 2010. And data over the span of 14 years with the Latino Scientists of Tomorrow show that 85% of the students who completed that cohort went to Utah Valley University after high school graduation. So a very impactful way to, as I say, tell the story. A story of inclusion, including the community, but also a story that students belong in that space. And then later on, we added a cohort in engineering and business. So for the Summer Bridge program, we served with the 3 cohorts about 120 students per year. 42 Utah high schools were represented in 2022. That's when I transitioned to Weber State University. And what you see in the screen, you'll see that the students received, for the engineering cohort, they received an Arduino kit. And this particular cohort, and I love these pictures because this is during COVID. We had to be very creative. And COVID for us created the opportunity for us to reach out to the whole state of Utah. So we were no longer constrained by location of the students, but we saw that opportunity to just say, this is going to include all Utah high schools. So we reached out to 150 high schools, and 42 participated, and then if you see on this side, this is that was a kit that the professor for biotechnology, a class that is typically taught in the lab. She created a lab, that we actually lend out all this equipment to students. And as we were having the classes on Zoom, she would direct the students to the different pipettes, and anytime that they needed to run some lab, she actually went to the students' homes and picked up the samples so that she can actually run them in the lab, since we couldn't at that point go to the lab. And then one of the cool things that happens in these classes, specifically in biotechnology, was that the students had a project. They had to do a poster research presentation as a final project. So they had to come up with, again, a project of things that they learned in the class on how they would better society through biotechnology. And I can tell you those posters, I go to a lot of conferences, and there was no difference between the level and caliber of those posters compared to the to professionals in the field. And so with the Summer Bridge program, we had the opportunity, I had the opportunity to present at the Hispanic Association of Colleges and Universities, HACU. And for many years, again, it's about telling the story. So how do we tell people about the work that we do so that we can open opportunities? And so I had the opportunity to go to HACU and do that. And in 2021, HACU was looking for a program to duplicate nationally. Dominion Energy had a grant application, and HACU was applying, and they said, "Are you interested?" And I said, "Of course." Keeping in mind that when we offer this Summer Bridge programs, there's no university funding that goes into that. The classes, yes, I would say the classes are off budget, but to pay instructors and the whole team, there's no funding. And so we have to do fundraising for that. So in 2022, Dominion Energy selected the Science Summer Bridge program to be duplicated at 6 other universities nationally. They donated $2 million for that project. And so it was 7 universities with Utah Valley. And they donated an additional $2 million in 2024. Even though I'm no longer a Utah Valley University, I know we're not longer part of that agreement, I'm still part of the national conversations to guide the work in that area. And this is a list of the participating universities. So we have universities in Connecticut, North Carolina, South Carolina, Puerto Rico, and Virginia. And they're doing a tremendous amount of work. They have hundreds and hundreds of students participating in these programs. And for me, it's a friendly reminder that a small idea and people who have the heart to work with the communities that we serve can make a huge difference. And then taking it back to Weber State University. So I started at Weber State University 2.5 years ago. And of course, we said this is a program that could be scalable. So let's go ahead and offer a pilot. So last year we did the Envisioning Summer Bridge program at Weber State University, specifically an engineering program. So we had 16 students participating in the pilot, and they took 2 engineering classes. And then this year, we're hoping with the funding, that limited funding that we have, that we can accept 32 students. Ideally, 50 to 60 students, but we're working on this. So again, they will be taking an engineering class and a technology class. And just a little bit about Ogden School District, one of the school districts that is right in the, I say not the backyard, the front yard of Weber State University. It's the most diverse school district in the state of Utah, where about 50% of the students identify as Hispanic and Latinos. So you have the trend at that school district. If you look at elementary schools, it's about 70, some of the elementary schools will be 77% Hispanic and Latino. And then junior high, 50 to 60%. And then again, for high schools, we have high schools in the same range. So this type of programming is important because oftentimes the students are not set to go into a STEM track. Of course, we want to see them in STEM tracks in higher education, but again, what are we doing to disrupt what I call the music? The same music that maybe doesn't include the student populations because of the many layers that they carry with them. So this is a way to, again, change the music. and include people in the spaces, and not only include them, but let them know that they belong in those spaces and that we need those voices, their voices, and that we value those voices in higher education. And with that, this is my contact information. Again, thank you so much for inviting me to share a work that is so dear to me, because I've seen the impact that it has had on students, not only attending the programs, but graduating and making amazing things, not only in the state of Utah, but also nationally as they move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Please join me in thanking all our speakers today for their wonderful presentations. So as promised, I'd like to take this opportunity to open up to the floor for any questions. I think we can also do this for our Zoom participants. Dr. Lopez, I see you there in the chat. I know you've been active. I'd like to invite you as well if you'd like to join us. But anyone in the room would like to ask a question, please don't be shy, as Professor Rodriguez likes to say. Or you can add a question to the chat. Dr. Rovietti, I need your help with that. So yeah. We have an extra one.
Dr. Lopez asks, can you share how you embed ongoing critical reflexivity on positionally in your work, whether teaching, research, community outreach, publications, other praxis in higher education, for example, ongoing self-implicating reflection on one's own race, visual status, gender, ethnicity, cultural heritage, class origin, as measured by parent level of education status, ethical, ontological, and epistemological commitments. And for the STEM Summer Bridge program, how many of the Latinx students grew up in let me scroll down, household where no parent earned a 4-year college degree in the US or abroad? Did this differ by gender?
Yeah.
Great, thank you so much for the question, and I think that yeah, setting the stage of because I think it's all about how do you get. For me, it's based on my experiences growing up, based on the fact that I am a woman, a Latina, and I see the needs of the community, of the students that we serve, maybe with a bigger lens, in the sense of I understand, for example, that a lot of the students who are participating in this program are first generation, low income. So one of the things that we did for the summer bridge was making sure that we had food. Understanding that something as simple as that, not only just to have food, but understanding that students who qualify for free and reduced lunch in the state of Utah, and it might be similar here, they have the opportunity to go to their local high schools in the summer and get food, get lunch, even when the schools are closed. So I always say that you can invite people to a space, but you cannot have a hungry mind. Have the opportunity to learn in that event. So for me, being mindful of those areas. When we went into COVID, we have this, as I mentioned, opportunity to expand the program to the whole state of Utah. But then understanding that we needed to provide computers, that we needed to have funding to buy computers to lend out to the students, that we needed to have funding to lend out hotspots or even pay for internet service for the students who did not. So I think my lens of growing up in the Dominican Republic and then coming to New York City to where I completed high school, seeing disparities, and then also learning to navigate the different systems, education and transportation. I always say transportation is it's a good one for New York, and then but then taking those principles and applying it to all the different spaces, so, specific. Uh, and I graduated, and one of the things that I'm mindful of is that even though it's been a long time ago since I graduated from high school, in 2025, across the country, the students, and also in New York City and all over the United States, students are facing the same things that I faced when I was a student. So being mindful of that, being mindful that as a woman, as a Latina, going into spaces, especially in Utah, I'm the only one in many of those spaces. And I go in to open opportunity. I have to decide before a meeting. I have to be not only twice as prepared as my white counterparts to engage in conversations, but I have to be 4 or 5 times as prepared. I can't just show up and just pretend that it's going to be okay. I have to be very prepared because in those meetings, I'm opening or closing opportunities. And so I'm representing students that typically will not be in the spaces that I get to be. So I understand that that I am that voice for the students. And then was there another part to the question? I know that there were.
Yes, there was another part regarding the STEM Summer Bridge program. How many of the Latinx students grew up in a household where no parent earned a four-year college degree in the US or abroad? Did this differ by gender?
Okay, great, thank you. So most of the students, and same as you found in your study, most of the students who participate, these programs are open to all students. So they were, even when the program at Utah Valley was called Latino Scientists, it was not just for Hispanic and Latinos, it was for all students. And how we did the selection was the College of Science. We had a rubric. The students were scored. One of the things that we looked at was first generation. So we looked at GPA, but there were other factors like that. If the students were low income, the majority of the students were females, and same as you found. The majority of the students were female, and then the majority of the students were first generation. So with that information, at least with the first generation, we understood that we had to have pieces in place where we were facilitating the conversation with the parents and then with the students themselves on how to navigate higher ed. And not only navigate higher ed, but for them to know that they were welcome, but that they belong in that space. So, so again, but this is my baby, so how I call it. I think we got all the.
Hello, I just wanted to ask you a question. I'm doing a similar study right now with hostel students about retention and graduation in STEM fields for minority students. I was just wondering, how do you get the qualitative data into your results?
So again, out of all of the students that had completed their degrees and had that we had the data on, that was a university provided data, then we had their email addresses, their UTEP email addresses, and we were hoping that they would answer to that email address. So out of the thousands of students that we reached out, we got 30 to participate, but it was through email. So it was all a lot of wishful thinking because, when you have 5,000 student population, out of which 700 and some participated in research, and out of those, we want participation, getting 30 was really good.
Thank you very much. Great presentations by all three. Congratulations. Quick question, what has been the most challenging situation you have confronted with students that, for those that you have high expectations, what have you done to make them go from A to B or C?
Who would like to take that one?
Okay. So one of the things that, and I think that is important to mention, like the cultural aspects. When you look at the Hispanic and Latino community, and you asked a student or a parent, what do you want? If you ask the parents or the guardians, what do you want your student to become when they go to college? What major? They will come up with 4 different majors. Not compare, and it's not the same as the amounts of salaries that people will earn for those degrees here, but that's typically why people think about those 4 majors. Interestingly enough, even though our list, students, I talk to students and they will say, I want to be a doctor, because that's the only thing that they recognize within STEM. And, but in high school, they're not necessarily in those tracks where they're taking, yes, they're taking the minimum things, and oftentimes this particular group of students are encouraged to do the minimum to graduate high school. And as we know, the minimum doesn't get us to many places. So, so I think the number one challenge that we have seen in doing the summer bridge programs is changing that dynamics, that perspective. At Weaver State, we have a program that is called WSU Prep, and it's a STEM program for 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. So that's how we are, as I mentioned before, changing the music. In the sense of, if the students were not in a STEM track by 7th grade, they have an opportunity to re-enter or enter that track and change the perspective, see the potential to go into a field that they don't have to become doctors. There are plenty of careers in STEM. And then also with the summer bridge opportunity, is just reaffirming that position that they can do college credit, for one thing. Many, Utah is big on dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment, where the students take, high school students take college classes in high school that count for both. But in the state of Utah, one of the statistics out there is that about 81% of the students who participate in concurrent enrollment opportunities are white, affluent students. When you look at Utah's Hispanic and Latino population, 20% identifies in K-12 identifies as Hispanic and Latino. So when we look at the numbers, in about 10% of Hispanic and Latinos participate in concurrent enrollment, that means that we have to do a lot of work in challenging that mentality, perhaps that, of not belonging, but then also challenging the mentality of not belonging in STEM. So this type of programming allows us to do that. Also, another component of the summer bridge, we do a pre and a post survey before the classes start. And then in the pre-survey, we ask quite a few questions and see about, we want to learn about their awareness about STEM fields. And typically, it's extremely low. By the time they finish summer bridge, they're thinking, okay, this is something that I can do. And then It doesn't have to be medicine. It could be, I could be a biologist, you know, I can do so many other things. But I think that that's the number one barrier, changing that perspective of people being able to, one, do college credits, take college classes, have the ability to persist. One of the things that we did in Summer Bridge, or we continually, constantly do, is that every time we start a class, and this is in collaboration with the faculty, you see, we all work together to make sure that the students succeed, is to show a video, maybe a small clip of 1 minute to 5 minutes, and it's just a motivational video to set the tone for the class. That was very important, and it's still very important because we get the opportunity to have the students debrief. You see, we're providing the students an opportunity to have a voice in the classroom, where typically other high schools, because they might be the only ones or only a few compared to their white counterparts, they might not be willing to raise their hands, you know. And now we're opening, creating a sense of community and a safe space so that they can express their opinions, and not only express their opinion, but know that those opinions count, that what they have to say is important.
So once we get the students into research, the biggest challenge is to convince them to go to graduate school. And the reason being their parents. So our students in El Paso, the majority of the students at our university are from El Paso. And those are very strong family units. So the idea that their kid is going to go away to a different city to go to graduate school is horrendous. We had one program where we required the students to apply to graduate school. We didn't say you have to accept the offers, but you have to apply to graduate school. And at the very beginning, when the students came into the program, we had an event like this, where we had prior students, where we had professors talking to the audience, and the audience was parents. We invited the parents. And one father raised his hand, and he said to the panel of faculty members, "How am I gonna let my baby girl go?" And thank God, one of the panelists was the actual mentor of the student. And she was from El Paso. She went away to graduate school and came back as a faculty member. So she was the perfect example. That student actually graduated from our program, went to do a PhD, went to a postdoc, and is now in New Mexico. She's not in El Paso, but she's close enough as a professor. So that's a success story. But that's one of the biggest difficulties that we have, is convincing them to go away. But once they are convinced, yeah.
I want to make a point of inviting Dr. Delgado Cruzada. If you want to open your mic, anything you want to share on the questions asked, please.
Sure, thank you. I mean, there are always many challenges in, trying to do all the work that we do. In particular, we have faced challenges with science faculty and trying to engage them in DI work. I think this is not very surprising, because a lot of scientists feel the sciences are completely separate, right, from our social experience. So that has been a challenge, but at the same time, it has been great to see how faculty are slowly understand that social issues and issues of access and identity are also relevant when we are learning in the sciences. So I would say, that certainly have been a challenge for our work.
Thank you.
Well, I really want to thank you, the three of you. You said yes immediately when we invited to participate in this event, and you have become an expert, in this field. And the question that I wanted to ask you is, what we could do better to improve the success of our students in STEM? What we are missing?
It's an easy one, isn't it? Who wants to go first? Lourdes, please.
Money. I think that's the number one thing that we are missing. I wish I had more money to be able to get all of the students that are in need to be able to participate in research. To me, there is no question about it, and getting them to participate in research is super impactful, and the data is incontrovertible. But so money is one of them. Good mentoring is the second one. We need to train mentors, because many of them, here, the population of faculty seems to be pretty similar to the population of students in terms of their intersectionalities. But at the majority of the institutions, including UTEP, which has a very high number of faculty members who are underrepresented minorities or come from but they're not the majority. And a lot of the faculty members just don't know how to mentor students that are different from them, that have a different trajectory and a different background from them. So training mentors on how to mentor students that come from those backgrounds is super important. I think that's one thing we're not missing, because a lot of institutions are now pushing this, but it's not there yet. I think those are the two that I would say.
And I also agree, funding prevents our ability to serve more students who are in great need of going into STEM. And then also, I think that an opportunity to think outside of the box, there has to be a willingness to do things differently. As I said before, to change the music so that others are included. So those two things, think outside of the box. And sometimes I say, think outside of the box. As you saw in the Summer Bridge program, this is for, historically, Summer Bridge programs are for incoming college freshmen. These are for high school students. So again, setting up the structure for the growth that you want to see. If the growth that we want to see in STEM, there's a strong desire at every college campus that I've been to do that. We have to go back and think about how are we creating that pipeline, an intentional pipeline in K-12, so that the students can come to higher ed.
Dr. Delgado Cruzado, do you have any thoughts on this?
I think it's a great segue, this idea, right, of thinking out of the box, and I'm going to thank my fellow speaker for that. I believe also that we have to start thinking about the sciences differently. How do we teach in the classroom, right? Because I totally agree. Research experiences are key to a successful STEM career, right? But funding is limited, as we all know. We need more funding. All the students might not be able to participate in these experiences. But maybe what we can do is actually change how we teach the sciences today, so the sciences are closer to our students. This is a new generation of students, a digital generation of students that has a complete different approach to learning, but also that can be more connected if we understand science in a way that actually brings together their cultural knowledge and their cultural experience into the classroom, into our actual topics of sciences. That is hard. It's going to be hard for us because we were not trained to teach that way. But I think we can learn. I really believe we can make the sciences more connected to the student. We can bridge that, distance. And then when we're talking and the examples that we're using are reflected in the life of our students, right? The examples for the animals we use in biology or for the things that they know, or we're bringing indigenous knowledge into the classroom, then the student is like, wow, I know that, my grandma used to do that, right? And then it is a different experience. We can also do that. And I don't think there is one path. I think all of these things that we're talking about need to be happening together, right? And certainly we need funding for that. So let's hope that we have this funding and we can continue doing this work. Anyway.
Hi, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I'm sort of reflecting on this because I just came out of doing the science fairs for the high school students, the prelims and the finals. And I was thinking that, like, I think in both cases, there were very few Hispanic students being represented there. And I think over the years, it's pretty much been the case. I've also been involved in bridge grants. And when I was in graduate school, we were maybe one of the first ones that had a bridge grant, and I was involved with one years ago setting it up for master's students getting into PhD programs. But I'm also thinking about what's going on societally, K through 12, and somebody was asking or saying something about intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. And I'm thinking not necessarily that we got to flip the classroom and do the problem, based education, but as our colleague was just saying, Dr. Delgado Cruzada, we need to somehow figure out a way of making the sciences more interesting, even all the way back through, K through 12, so that the students have a love for it, that they want to, like a passion for it, that they want to stay with it, even when it gets difficult, and maybe doing like through clubs, like even if it's not a hardcore research opportunity, but I'm thinking back to when I was in high school, doing like cat dissections and things like that after school. I know like my colleague here is interfaced with the Hall of Science in Flushing to try to get students over there, and they do stuff with K through 12. We need to like make it interesting to connect to life, as our colleague was just saying, because the pipeline is an issue, whether it's like years ago, I was thinking more about like maybe females, whatever, and broadening the thinking on we've got a serious issue here, and it's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately. I don't even want to ask you what your thoughts are on what's going on at other level when it comes to funding. So, but actually, sort of as a question, have you thought about interfacing to some extent with the Intel Festival? Like it's now taken over, I think, by Terra, and there may be some other organizations, in trying to interface with them to try to network better, to help bring more students, into the fold, so to speak, Hispanic and and so on, to, like to help bolster the pipeline. Because I can tell you the students that I've met there, the fairs, they're lovely, they're enthusiastic, but we need to go beyond that.
Thank you, Dr. Trackman. Make STEM entertaining again, I guess, is the mantra here. Anyone have any thoughts on her question? Please.
So I think in K-12, so one of the things that we, or one of the practices that has become my best practice is mapping out the organizations, as you mentioned. How do we work with the school districts in this case, and other organizations? Like we have the governor, Utah's governor has the STEM Action Center, and they work with elementary schools. So again, creating kind of that conversation. They do work with some junior highs, and they wanted to expand it a little bit to high schools. But then connecting the dots is really important. So, so again, when the students come, creating programs like this early on, and then having a relationship with the school districts is critical. And knowing the principal, the superintendents, and then doing a pilot program. I'm not sure if Hostos has a program like this for high school students, tuition-free summer bridge programs. They're impactful and they're meaningful. And then you have to also take into account what is the win-win situation for those students and their parents. As mentioned, our students also have other responsibilities. You know, for those high school students, typically they're helping out with their younger siblings in the summer, or they're working to help put food at the table, you know, helping the parents or the guardians. So we're mindful that it's a win-win. We have to propose a win-win situation in the sense of they're getting college credit, even on the schedule and how we offer the classes, where classes are twice a week, and then the third day is the career exploration days. The classes are typically from 9 to 3, understanding that students are going to work, right? These high school students are going to work right after the summer bridge, but also providing tutoring and mentoring. So, and then the classes are very hands-on. So that's also in the spirit of making it interesting for them to participate.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else with any other questions? Dr. Oviedo, is anything jump out at you in the chat? Otherwise, I will give the last word to Dr. Rodriguez.
Just a question from Dr. Lopez pertaining to, have you considered including multiple measures of race in surveys as well as in face-to-face interviews? So she says, in addition to self-identified race, research shows that how others perceive your race is related to experiences of discrimination in the classroom, workplace, even accessing healthcare. So have other measures of race been used in like surveys or interviews in your research?
So in the data that we get from the university, we either get if they are white, Black, Asian, Native American, or other. And what I decided to do here was what we ask, check all that apply. So some students do put in Black and Asian, or white and Black, or white and Native American, and we consider those mixed race. So that's the only other measure of race that we include in our studies. We do ask the students a lot of questions, depending on the program, it varies. This particular study, we didn't, but depending on the program, we do ask the students to elaborate on certain things in their essay when they're applying to the program. So we keep that information as well. And we did notice that a lot of the students of either Hispanic or mixed race talk a lot about the barriers that they have had to attend college, or to get scholarships or to do research because of specific situations culturally associated with, you know, caregiving for others, or being parents, or being in the military and being called to duty, things like that. I don't know if that answers the question.
I mean, I think you have provided a good response to question, because through the feedback received through the qualitative interviews, you're collecting that in terms of what students are sharing.
I see one hand raised behind you, so I want to give it this.
Yeah, I really related to both of your presentations because I'm currently a Latino student as well, and I'm also in STEM. But like, the question I wanted to ask was like, what can we do as students to instill or motivate our peers to stay on that STEM track? Like, that's what I wanted to ask.
Anyone?
So one of the biggest successes that we achieved in my office was to use students to advertise other programs, or to advertise our programs, because students see themselves in other students. They don't see themselves in the old lady or the old woman, or, you know, that is directing a program. They see themselves in you. So we used to send our research students to the high schools or to the community college to give presentations about what was it that was special to them about doing research. So definitely that's one of them. You know, help advertise and talk about yourselves and talk about your success. Because one other barrier that I found was that a lot of students feel the imposter syndrome. They don't think they are good enough for doing research. So it takes a little while for them to realize, hey, I can do this. I succeeded. And some of them, you know, when they get their name on a paper, they are celebrating for months, you know, because it's important to them. So telling the students, hey, it's normal to feel the imposter syndrome. It's normal to feel like you're not good enough for this, but you are. I mean, look at what you did here. Look at what you did there. Look at the grades that you're getting. That speaks volumes. So please do advertise and talk about yourself.
Completely agree with her. And tell your story, connect with other students, become a mentor for someone who is coming. If you know somebody who's new to the university, to the college, be a mentor, be a friend, and help them, introduce them to the faculty, introduce them to people who are doing this amazing work, and then introduce them to what you're doing and all the steps that you took to get there. Be an advocate for with the administrators, you know, talk to the dean, to the chairs, and even to the president if you have an opportunity, and say, you know, how your experience has been, not only when you got here, but before you got here. You know, who opened the door for you to be in this space, and then who is or all the people that are working with you. So to make sure that you're not only attending a few college classes, but that you're actually achieving your dream of getting a college education to get your dream job and serve people. So I think that that's really important. If you don't have LinkedIn, get a LinkedIn account, get it out there, you know, connect with organizations and help others do the same. Even if you don't have a lot of time to post, it's important that people know that you are here, and that the same way that you're attending Hostos Community College, others can do the same thing. And then I want to give a shout out to someone who's on the Zoom, Dr. Nino Collado. He's a high school teacher of mine. And what I learned from him when I was in high school many, many years ago, and he continues to be a mentor to me, is the importance of advocating for others. You know, advocating for the spaces where we exist, every space that we exist. So anyway, but that would be my advice. Get LinkedIn, get the word out there, and this is great music. We can dance to it. Thanks for changing the music.
I see Dr. Roldos, you have your hand up raised in the Zoom, please. If you can unmute, I hope we can hear you.
Can you hear me there?
Yes. Wonderful.
So I just wanted to, because I see that there's such a strong theme in the panel, you know, about changing the way that we teach them, and, you know, and getting students engaged in more than one way, and wanted to share one of the ways we're doing it in health, which I'm in health sciences. And it's really using this concept of place-based education in the high school through middle school and high school by bringing those statistics of disparities into the classroom where many of our students already experience it. So when we're talking about diabetes, they probably know somebody in their close circle that has diabetes, right? If we're talking about injury, we're probably including things like violent crime. Including those percentages in the math class so that they actually remember how to calculate a percentage, an odd ratio, or something by using data that actually they will remember because they know what that data means and what that number means. in their lives has been, we're doing the trial, we're doing the pilot, more to come on that. But it kept me thinking about when we're talking here in the need to create the science or even environmental or in the communities, right? So going beyond the classroom. So really, I even posed a question myself in the chat about requesting money. We need more money. Where should that money go? Should it go to tuition? It should go to mentors? It should go to the students? But now I'm actually thinking that maybe you should go to the communities of those community labs, where the students can actually relate this to the classroom. Because it's very hard in the basic sciences, as you all know. I mean, I'm not basic science researcher, but I can only speak by my experience. But maybe those are the things that we could invest those monies in, so that students can bring that place-based into the classroom and creating that pipeline or pathway to college. And I have already, I don't want to say abandoned, but definitely put more of my focus on middle school and high school in the pipeline, because I have recognized that by the time our student, at least at Lehman College, I'm speaking for Lehman, if they made it to college at Lehman, they were going to make it no matter what. They were going to make it. They already are at Lehman, right there. And then we're pulling that good student into STEM, health, nursing. They have options, right? And we're still, working through the shuffle of the Lehman shuffle or the Cooney shuffle. But it's really maybe making the pipeline bigger. We like make that, not only change the music, but actually change the inflow. We need to change the equipment. Music is not enough. We need to change the equipment so that it's not a straw, but maybe a sewage pump that goes in rather than just the straw, because they already made it to college. They already there. So that's kind of my 5 cents and that I wanted to add, if I may.
Thank you, Dr. Roldos. Yeah, open that tap, right? Increase the main line. So, Delgado,
Can I just say something?
yeah, please, Dr. Delgado, Cruzado, please.
So I just wanted to highlight that one thing that is super important as we do this work is understand that, the same way we think about intersectionality, all our populations are different. So we really have to come out with a way to look at our individual college students. A student at Hostos doesn't have the same experience that a student at Utah or another university, because we, because we are not just we are not this unified group of people. There are intersections of many different things happening. So it's critical to look at the data, of our individual group of students, to look at what their experiences are, but to understand again, what is it better to put the funding into? What our students need? And the needs are going to be specific. And I wanted to highlight that because we are in this moment of everything is data driven, but one advantage to that is actually the fact that we are building targeted interventions in the specific campuses that we are, right? Because that's what is actually needed. So just wanted to bring that up and just highlight the importance of that as, as people are thinking about what to do. There is no one size fits all, right? Every student and every population and every college is an individual experience unto itself. So we have to look at the research and we have to look at solutions in the same way. Just that.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Dr. Collado, please, if you can unmute.
I wanted to ask a question with regards to unmute. Here we go. Yes, I wanted to ask a question with regards to K-12. As a longtime middle and high school principal, I think there are mechanisms for gatekeeping that solidify a student's question in their ability to be successful in certain areas, and is the current grading paradigm. meaning that we are supposedly have standard grading systems across the nation, but we are not grading for standard mastery more. And once the students start accumulating the Ds, the Fs, and the support is not there, that reaffirmation from that student's self-perception and the family's own school is not for you reaffirms the fact that I don't need to go to college. So I'm wondering if we are pushing the envelope to rethink the grading paradigm, to create more formative grading opportunities and look at who's getting the Ds and who's getting the Fs, and the gatekeeping mechanisms to get into the advanced placement high rigor classes. Are they in effect because they were in effect yesterday, or are they in effect because they purposeful and need to be in effect? I'm wondering if we are deliberately asking that question with a sense of, no, I need an answer. That's not a rhetorical question. So I'm standing by for you to see, for you to understand and digest the practices that keep so many Latino and minority and poor students from these high rigor classes. That's kind of my thought.
Anyone? You stumped our panel. Lizette, please. Yeah. I thought you, no.
I don't work with K to 12, so it's always a little bit of a throw off for me. I'm sorry.
Anyone else?
I think that, as I mentioned before, having conversations, being at the table with the school districts, the leadership, but also with the leadership at our higher education institutions is really important to change that dynamics. Because understandably so, if you look at students across the state of Utah who are participating in STEM, it will not be the minority students. And by minority, I'm defining that as not only by race, but economically disadvantaged and first generation. You know, the data is out there, it paints a story. As I showed that painting at the beginning of my presentation, you saw all the colors. So we take into account the students' narratives, that's the painting, you know, perhaps where my parents lived, you know, but the data is what adds the color. And with that data, we go in and have conversations to create spaces where we're changing things, transforming spaces to be inclusive and transforming spaces so that administrators across the to include people who historically have not been present or are not present in those spaces. So I know that there's more to that question, but I know that we're also running out of time. But I think every time, I always say that everything starts with a conversation to not only, I always say a conversation to seek to understand, and we don't all have to agree, but we can agree to disagree and then move forward and create opportunities for students.
And with that, I want to thank everyone for coming today, everyone who joined us virtually online, and most of all our three speakers. Thank you so much for a wonderful day. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, again, a big round of applause for the three speakers. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. And also, of course, we are going to have food. Then please, we are invited now to have lunch. Thank you so much for everyone to join us. Thank you.